Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to the Reptile Barn. I've been wanting to talk about this for a little while. Um, I really want to get into how I think reptiles get priced. You know, a lot of people, they are a kid or maybe just a newcomer to the hobby. They're like, oh, I want a corn snake. I saw him for 50 bucks at the pet store. And that's their intro to how much a pet reptile costs. They discover maybe Morph Market or something, and they're like, a $5,000 ball python or a $50,000 albino alligator or something, and it just blows their mind. And they're like, I don't understand. Why is that? Unfortunately, there is not just a super simple explanation. I think it needs a discussion, right? The first thing that you got to bring up is supply and demand. Of course, if supply is higher than demand, price is going to go down. If demand is higher than supply, price is going to go up. That's pretty basic, I feel like, to a market economy. But there's a lot more to it, right? So the reason I've got Colton Copper here, my male Savu, is because while demand is not crazy high, supply is lower than the demand, right? There's not enough people breeding them. You can't import them, not these days. And so prices stay pretty high. We have several what I think of as my specialty pythons, right? We've got the Savus that came from GS Reptiles. Look them up on YouTube, one of the funniest YouTube channels out there. We've got our white-lip pythons, our southern white-lip pythons, our Superdorf retics. We keep pure locality Superdorf retics that we got from Reach Out Reptiles. Oh, come here, buddy. And all of these specialty pythons, as I like to call them, are in that $2,000 to $3,000 range. That's pretty expensive, right? And with the possible exception of Superdorf retics, demand is not sky high on these, but supply is quite a bit lower than the demand. So the prices stay pretty high, right? But for most people, $2,000 to $3,000 for a pet that then is not going to cost you an arm and a leg to keep. The enclosure doesn't have to be spectacularly gigantic. Even a Superdorf retic isn't going to need like a bedroom-sized enclosure. If you save up for a while and that's your dream animal, you can do that, right? Think of like a purebred dog or something. Like that's expensive. That's a commitment. That is a sacrifice for most people. Other than the super rich, but most people can do that. If that's really, really, really important to you, you can save up $2,000 or $3,000 and get one of these animals. But what else goes into pricing other than supply and demand? I have thought of some things that I want to bring up real quick. One, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know, name brand. This is huge. If you're into ball pythons like I am and you like morphs, and you're like, wait, why is this spot-nosed leopard clown from this breeder $1,000 more than from this breeder? Well, different breeders are asking different prices for the same thing because different breeders have different levels of exposure, fame, and trust built up with the hobby. And I think that last one, trust, is a key because it's not just that they're trying to exploit you with buying from a name brand breeder. It's also like these people have worked for, in many cases, decades to gain the trust of a massive customer base. That is worth a lot of money to me as a breeder, or I'm sorry, as a buyer. I have many times spent more money on an exact same either species or morph to get it from the person that I trust, even though theirs is more expensive. It's more expensive for a reason. Their customer service is better. Their animal husbandry might be better. Not always, by the way. Sometimes it's just somebody who got super famous and maybe their husbandry sucks, but I'm not going to buy from them. But if it's somebody that I'm like, yeah, this is an expensive animal because this person goes above and beyond, that's who I'm buying from, guaranteed, right? Um, so that's just something to think about, is that the company or the person that you are buying from can impact the price. Um, Wild caught versus captive bred is something that a lot of people don't think about. I saw something recently. I wish I could remember where. I don't think it was on one of my videos, but it might have been. Regardless, a comment was something like, um, if breeders of these rare species specifically really loved the conservation aspect of things, they wouldn't charge any more than a wild caught, because then they could put the wild caught market out of business and they would be contributing more to conservation. Well, maybe, but if you're running a business, then you have to hit a certain price point or you will go out of business. That's a fact, right? No one is giving you a grant to do conservation. If you're a for-profit business and you're just a breeder, your income has to come from sales. And if your sale point is not high enough to exceed your overhead, sorry about my crazy camera work here. I'm just trying to keep this snake from crawling into the couch or whatever. Um, you must exceed your overhead by enough profit margin to pay yourself, pay your employees, and all that good stuff, or you're not a business, right? So if you can't make your sale point down at the level of a wild caught animal, does that mean you're a bad person who secretly loves exploiting wild populations? No. I don't think so, certainly. Um, but yeah, I mean, think about it. If you are just an importer and you don't have to really be feeding your animals very often because you only have them in your possession for a couple of weeks, and I hope that importers would not be that way, but a lot of importers, that's what they are doing, guys. They're getting these big old boxes. 20% of the animals in them are often dead. They're not treating them for parasites. They're not treating them for internal parasites. Um, they're flippers, only they're flipping wild caught animals instead of healthy, hopefully captive bred animals. So obviously their price is going to be way, 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 way lower on that animal. As far as its value as a pet or a future breeder, that is a lower value animal, financially speaking, right? And they can sell it and reflect that in the price point. If you have your facility where you house breeders year round, you're feeding them year round, you're establishing your babies before you sell them, your overhead is dramatically higher than these importers, right? Not to mention, a lot of these importers are in Florida, and they can keep stuff outdoors and save even more money that way. So that's just something to think about, is wild caught versus captive bred is going to impact the price. Generally, captive bred is going to be a lot more expensive. Just that should be baked into your mind. Captive bred is going to be more expensive, and it's probably worth every penny of being more expensive, if that makes sense. Another thing that maybe we should think about more, that for some reason we don't, if the animal itself is spectacular in nature, like it looks incredible or it has a ridiculously awesome behavior or something, it is going to be more expensive than a less spectacular animal. We as humans, we tend to like cool or rare colors, morphological features, behaviors, whatever the case may be. That's worth money to us. We give value to that kind of cool factor, right? So like I breed Philippine sailfin dragons, and the males and even the females a little bit have purple. There's not a ton of purple in the reptile world, and it's just spectacular. That's the word for it, right? It's incredible. That increases their value, as it should, right? They have the cool fins. They have huge, long, broad toes that literally they can run on water. They're a very cool animal. And that is reflected in the price. Okay, so all of these things I think are pretty intuitive. I have a few more. One of them, uh, we unfortunately, or I don't know how to even word this, whether the animal is going to be used for business or pleasure impacts the price. Specifically, I'm talking about the most popular animals, especially if they have morphs: ball pythons, corn snakes, retics, boas, um, leopard geckos, etc. Bearded dragons. These animals are often being sold knowing that they're going to be used for someone else's business, right? And people start to view them as an investment. Whether you agree with that or not, it's going to impact the price, right? Uh, a higher investment animal that people think down the line is going to make them more money is going to be sold at a higher point than if it's seen as a less valuable investment, right? Um, that's just how it is. If you're into real estate, how come every single property that's 1 acre isn't exactly the same price? Well, obviously, location, um, what's already on the property. There's a million things that can make it a worse or a better investment. Just because it in one random measurement is the same, the price can be so dramatically different that it's staggering. I'm here in Alaska. You go out off the road system, 1 acre is nothing. It's pennies. But you're in New York City. No one can buy an acre, right? That's insane. That's absolutely insane. So the business versus pleasure matters, right? To the price. Um, and that can be impacted by trends, right? Say, tie this back to kind of the name brand thing. Um, I always loved Wookiee ball pythons. And right before I bought my Wookiee, Justin Kabilka, a hugely popular, respected, influential ball python breeder, unveiled his Wookiee clown stuff, his Kraken project. And the cost of Wookiees went up, right? Because a big name breeder decided he valued this gene and was going to invest more in it. Well, so did a bunch of his fans, right? That's just how it is. And I paid more for that Wookiee than if I had bought it the year previously. That's just how it is. And Wookiee has trended up and it's super popular. The price point wobbled when people thought it was the same gene as chocolate. And then when it was proven that it's not the same gene as chocolate, then it went back up. So these things have trends, right? And it doesn't have to be morphed animals either. Savus used to be imported. Philippine sailfin dragons used to be imported. They were cheap, and there was lots of them, and high supply and all that. And then when they stopped being imported, they just disappeared almost from the hobby. And only when a couple of influential people started being able to breed the ones that they still had, and kind of getting a trend going, well, interest was raised, demand went up, and social media now is super influential on how that works. By the way, I don't know if you guys can hear my dogs going crazy or not. If you can, I apologize. Um, but yeah, so other than that, I think maybe we could talk about, the ease of keeping. A corn snake might be cheaper because the breeder doesn't have to spend as much money and space breeding them and producing them. You, as the buyer, don't have to spend as much money and space keeping them. Whereas, an alligator, that's not the case, right? You have to have a very, very, very specialized location, ability, skill set. Um, it's expensive to feed, etc. So the ease of keeping them and breeding them is going to impact the price, of course. And then, other than that, the last thing I wanted to mention that's another unfortunate part is, depending on what country you live in, bartering may be more or less common. Here in the United States, it's not crazy common to barter on things. However, it's extremely common in certain industries, like the reptile world. A lot of breeders end up posting their animals for hundreds of dollars more than they expect them to sell for because they're fully expecting all their potential buyers to offer them less than the listing price. So this bartering system can, if you're someone who hates bartering and you're just going to pay whatever the listing price is, you are probably paying more than another buyer would have paid for that animal because a lot of these breeders are expecting to be given offers below the sale point. Now, be careful because you can insult breeders by really lowballing them and then they just won't sell to you. If I have somebody come to me and I've got an $800 snake listed and they offer me $200, I'm not going to sell to them. Even if they finally raise their price up, I'm like, look, dude, you are not polite. You are not helpful. You're not the kind of person I want to do business with. That's just ridiculous. And I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but I'm also not going to, help somebody like that who has no interest in an honest transaction. So, but be aware, bartering and the whole system around that can impact the price of these animals because, like I said, the breeder is probably expecting some lower offers, so they might make the listing price higher than they're actually expecting to get. Be aware of that. I typically don't give crazy deals. Sometimes to locals I do because I don't have to ship. Or if people are buying a lot of animals at once. But I don't like bartering. So I list my animals at the price that I actually want for them. And I explain that to people when they try and give me offers. I'm like, no, look, I already listed these, what I think they're worth. If you don't, that is perfectly fine. You can buy elsewhere. But I think my animals are worth X amount, and that is what I want to sell them for. So that is all. I hope that something here was informational. As always, I try to pull out a beautiful snake, so at the very least, you can enjoy looking at an awesome creature while I ramble at you. But if any of you were ever wondering, those are the things that I can think of. I'm sure I missed some of, impactful, different things that can make the price go up and down, and sometimes it can be over a short period of time. You'll see the price go up and down over a year's time, like 6 different times. Like, what is going on? All of these factors play off of each other. They influence each other. Some of them are bigger deals than others, but they're all there. And so I hope this was helpful. And thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, we're the Reptile Barn.